The following story is an artistic work of fiction and falsehood. Only a fool would consider it as fact. Thread 2B, December 17th, 2006. In this thread, it is finally decided that the OP will hereafter be called Nurse-kun, but not much else happens. Anonymous here, since some people still seem to have questions as of the death of today's update thread. I'll keep an eye on this one if anyone has anything to say or ask. Dear noobs, whenever someone seriously asks for help, B will give honest advice. We stop doing that for people who abuse our generous offer after a while, but we still help the needy. I don't have anything to ask, but I just want to say that your story makes me feel all warm and cozy on the inside, which is truly surprising for B. Good work, Anonymous. Good work. Why Anonymous? Wasn't it Nurse Otoko? Well, it was the first thing that sprang to mind, terrible as it was. Anonymous, that is. I hold neither love nor esteem for it, but while it goes against my anonymous instincts, I needed something to indicate my identity, such as it is, and OP for the OP seemed rather ludicrous. I'm not Japanese and don't pretend or try to be, but I'll let 4chan decide. I think you should be known on B as Nurse-kun and amputee-chan, since Anonymous and the half-Japanese lolly with no legs, one arm, and one eye takes too long to type. Okay, serious question. When are you actually going to approach them about adopting? I mean, how long will you just keep doing little things for her, helping her out in the hospital, trying to gain her trust, etc.? Generally, any ward of the state that's under 18 is available for adoption. Not necessarily adoption likely, but one can at least try. If she's up for adoption, I sure would like to try. You and your damn story are too heartwarming. In the words of B, I'm detecting large amounts of win in this thread. I probably wouldn't make a serious inquiry or request until at least the new year, if only because doing it without at least having her half-trust, or like me, would be both pretty dumb and pretty self-defeating. Yeah, that's what I figured. What are you going to try to accomplish with her in that time? Such as helping her open up, helping her find new hobbies, and making friends with her, helping the other staff do the same, etc. What exactly do you have to prove to be approved as an adoptive parent? Reasonable doubt that you won't rape and murder the child. I'll do what I can. I mean, I really would like to gain her trust, because she doesn't trust anyone right now, and that's probably one of the bigger hindrances to her getting any better. And I'll treat her like I treat any other kid in her situation that I was willing to risk my life over, as best as I can. It's the only way things will go at all well for anyone involved. Also, OP should never let the adoption authorities know of 4chan. Keep it secret. Keep it safe. I imagine you should hit up G if they demand to check your computer so that you can totally wipe all evidence of 4chan or any other incriminating websites you might have in your cache. That Adam Walshak stripped adoption agencies the ability to consider all factors prior to a criminal record check, so one thing you have to have is a totally clean criminal record. It's like if you've made a felonious mistake, you're automatically an unfit person to adopt, though you're still allowed to fuck like a bunny and produce massive quantities of Asian babies by saying hello to some Japanese Americans in their native way. Basically, bleep. My record is clean. Other than browsing B, I've never done anything illegal. I don't even have any CP to hide, which has made my feelings for her, confused as they are, all the more confusing. Does the place where you work have any sort of rules against employees adopting current/post patients? I'd guess not, as you said in the first thread that most people there are old as fuck, but it just seems like that could be an obstacle. Not that I'm aware of, but if it is a problem, and it's the deal breaker, the choice between success and keeping my job, I can get another job, even in my field. There's a healthcare crisis on, you know. Question here. How much time in total have you spent with her? Seems like you've only talked to her a few brief times late at night while gathering most of your info from her records and other people. If you do adopt her, you'll be committing yourself to the full reality of her situation. You'll have to take care of all her needs, you'll have to deal with all her mental problems like random outbursts, and you'll also have to deal with the fact that you'd be a single parent with an underage crippled child. I'm sure people will be talking behind your back, both good and bad. I have no doubt that you'll be able to provide for the girl, but at the same time, this isn't like taking some stray dog off the street. Adopting her would drastically change your life. If you feel like you can take on all the physical, emotional, and financial burden, as well as the criticism you may get from other people, all the more power to you, man. To the OP, don't you think that the responsible thing to do, as you have somewhat lustful feelings for this girl, is to avoid becoming her guardian? Seems to me to be a really bad idea for both of you. Believe me, I am very aware of this, which is why I'm still in hard-thinking mode, not painting the spare room pink mode. Which is why I'm saying, meeting her at the late hours of the night may turn on your feelings of wanting to protect and care for her, but if you make her a part of your life, you'll also have to deal with the not-so-favorable sides of her. If I was in your shoes, I'd also feel sorry for her as well, but I know for a fact that I'm too much of a selfish asshole. You'd have to sacrifice a lot for her, and I'm sure I wouldn't be able to do that. It's good to see that you seem to be taking a long look at things before jumping into any decisions. The best thing you can do is to take things a day at a time and do what you can to help her out. If you can adopt her, or something else happens, at least maybe the memories of someone treating her nice will help her in the future.
What hospital are you working at?
Come on, man, he can't tell where he works.
Why not? Nobody gives a shit. I'm working as a pathologist assistant here, and there is a somewhat similar situation. Thought it might be the same girl.
People want to fucking kill him because they think he's a pedo. Revealing personal info on B is like dropping your pants and bending over in a maximum security prison. Some asshole would find a way to report him. Authorities might not even take it very seriously, but it could still hurt his chances. As I've already stated in the first post, I'm not working in a hospital. I'd suggest trying to get other workers together on doing things for her. You could be the clear ringleader, but it would be far less creepy and would give everyone context to your request for adoption. As mentioned once before, I'm already planning ways to accomplish this. But Friday nights, good luck finding anyone still around at 10 p.m. And on the weekends, during the day, I'll schedule a meeting come Monday and present my proposal. We are allowed to make recommendations for the consideration of the treatment of patients. Like I said, the administrator isn't a complete bitch. The next section is spam and fiery argument about whether he is a pedo. Anon's attempt to judge Nurse-kun. It's called the B filter. This is an instance of how it works. Anon, I see a black man sitting at the bus stop. B filter Anon, oh lord, he's going to KFC for some chicken. This is just like that. Anon, I see this cute, strong, and unfortunate little girl. I admire her greatly and wish to help her. B filter Anon, stick it lollipooper for win. I'm no longer worried about the OP raping her. He shows a degree of judgment too far beyond that of a pedophile. He shows that he has a conscience that would not allow him to do this. If any of you still doubt this, just keep in mind that this is the kind of man who would regret doing this for the rest of his life. For the record, I think it's a terrible idea to even consider adopting someone you have lustful feelings for at any level. Caring for a girl in this situation full-time is hardly going to be easy, and if the decision to adopt is based on clouded judgment, there's real potential for disaster. As a father and a pedophile, I can happily inform you that your opinion is null and void. Just because you want to bone a chick who is in your care doesn't mean you can't take good care of her. Since when did one case equal the norm? Just because you haven't fucked up your relationship with your daughter doesn't mean the OP won't. Consider also that a single parent adopting a crippled girl is a considerably different situation to a pedophile, assumingly in a relationship caring for his daughter. So no one should ever have children or adopt or in fact do anything because they might fuck it up. It always makes me shudder to hear of betards breeding, but I suppose it can't be helped. OP is a fucking pedophile who should kill himself. All the facts that support him should die too. P.S. This entire thread is fake, but it sure makes me mad. Playing devil's advocate here, you seem to be working under the false assumption that A pedophile is an inhuman monster who doesn't hold any degree of social normity and thus is easy to spot. B, the OP is telling the 100% truth and not making the entire thing up or changing details or lying about his feelings to make himself look better. If you spent any time on B, you'd know better than to jump to the conclusion, dudes, this guy isn't a pedophile. I can tell from the words he has typed on an internet forum. I think it's going to be pretty important for the people here to research the difference between the following labels for future reference. Pedophile, ephebophile, sex offender, sexual predator, violent sexual predator. Remember, if this story is true, it is being viewed through the eyes of the OP. Imagine how much mental masturbation may have happened in his head and has perceived everything happy. Exactly. Everyone here has been jumping to conclusions. Either the OP is the lowest form of scum on the earth, a terrible, monstrous pedophile, or he's a gleaming golden god, upholding justice and truth in a messed up world. I would expect betards to be much more skeptical than this. The world isn't black or white, it's all shades of gray. There's no real saints out here. but trying to crucify the guy because of some B-style comment is just absurd. I'm a fairly normal guy, but I also browse B and I'll type things I'd never say or realistically think of doing in real life. I'm not saying he's the second coming, but these assholes proclaiming he should instantly be sodomized in a maximum security prison are a fucking joke. I'm no saint. I'm not taken to wear dirty trench coats and luring children into my white van with candy either. The world is full of shit. You can either do your best to tread it, or start eating. To the OP, I am somewhat confused about your intents. I am pretty sure it is either of the following. Gain her trust, adopt her, take care of her, be sexually open towards her, and eventually, when appropriate, if she consents, stick it in, or gain her trust, adopt her, care for her, completely avoid any sexual activity with her forever. You seem to not want to do anything to hurt her, but if you educate her and she consents and she trusts you, since you really seem to care for her, what would the problem be? Many people here seem to think you are leaning towards one of the two extremes, completely avoiding sex or outright cold-heartedly raping her to death. I don't have a long-term master plan in place, despite what some may think. I'm basically trying to figure out what my heart, as faggoty retarded as that sounds, is telling me I should do. I wouldn't consider something of this magnitude without being ready for the consequences. The first thread was as much a subconscious attempt at getting people to tell me to just walk away entirely as anything. Guess it failed. There is no cold-hearted raping in the forecast, and yes, I'm quite aware that any sex with an immature person is rape, consenting or not. And I am not a fucking rationalizing pal that say, oh, children can be totally mature as an adult man. I didn't go looking for the situation. Fuck. Some people in this thread have already told you that adopting her is an awful idea. You may want to take that advice to heart. I suspect you haven't because you don't want to just give up on the girl because you think that would be heartless. Really though, the best thing for her is probably to do exactly that, even if it makes you feel like shit. Nurse-kun, you should keep trying to befriend her and help her open up, but other than that, just wait. If the time comes and she still doesn't have anyone who wants to take her in, then you should consider it. But it's far too premature at this point. This isn't some sort of quick fix for your conscience and your natural protective feelings. This will be a lifetime commitment. You will have to devote the rest of your life to her health and well-being. You will have to be able to protect her from all the people out there that would take advantage of her and try to hurt her just because she's weak. At the same time, you will have to give her enough leeway to grow and develop independence, so she will be able to function in society without you having to be there all the time to serve as a buffer for reality. This will take an epic amount of patience, compassion, understanding, and a good sense of humor. I want this to work, and I want you to be all these things and come out of this as the kind of person everyone wishes they could be. Your story actually made me think about what I'm doing to help people around that I see in the paper. I have money and time, and I've done nothing in my 30 years to be a good man. Don't let us down. Don't let this girl down. If you are going to give her any hope, be ready to follow through. This is true. Right now, she thinks you are just a nice nurse. It is going to take a long time for her to ever want to be adopted by you. OP, I think you should find a good home, but not with you. No offense, you seem very nice, but how can you trust yourself not to daughter? Well, to be fair, I haven't so far. Perfect record. God, you people go on and on and on, and this thread is getting pretty damn boring. But hey, keep jerking it to your impotent thoughts of rage at the monster daring to give a shit about that poor little girl that you'd tisk and awe over if you ever saw her, but you'd start feeling uncomfortable with and want to get away from as soon as you could, just like everyone else that hasn't been paid to deal with her thus far have. She had friends before the accident, you know. She and her parents both. They all came to visit her in the hospital afterward. Once. None of them ever came back for a second visit. You fat make me sick with your furious mewlings. Save that virility for your glory holes and GTFO drama. Is this thread going to end anytime soon? I'm the guy who's archived the last 2 threads, and have archived this one every second minute for the last hour or so, and I'd prefer knowing this since I probably should go to bed soon, work tomorrow. On a side note, I won't be able to archive any threads tomorrow. Anyone else going to take my place? If you mean for rapid share, I could do this one. You're probably several hours ahead of me. It's 7:15 p.m. or EST here. I'll edit the wiki for this thread tonight, but I can't promise anything about later. Good. You think you can handle tomorrow too? Anyways, I live in Denmark. Being a GMT +1 country, it is currently 1:19 a.m. here. No, a lot, but it's a new job, and I wouldn't want to be too tired for a second day of work. So, good night, Anonymous. OP here. How do I shot web? Spider-Man pick here. Well, basically, you just right-click on the page and choose Save Site As, or something like that. And of course, save as a complete page, .html. This, of course, isn't a perfect description since my copy of Firefox is in Danish, but it shouldn't be that hard to figure out. Oh yeah, just remembered. Make sure what you archive is at 4chan.org, not 4chan.org.htm. But now that I look at the thread, I think it's safe to say that not much more is going to happen. You can have my latest archive. Thread 2C on I. Note, this is a side post from the I board in a thread for fanart of the nameless girl. Some posts from the original have been moved here for consistency. 30 minutes in MS Paint. If there's fanart, then she's a Chan. And she needs more fanart.
And not worth criticizing.
On a non-text related note, fanart of her, based on my description, is welcome. I can give further details if necessary. Fanart of me would be pretty retarded, unless someone wants to draw an anonymous in scrubs or something. Fuck, I just realized the OP's pic is almost exactly like the girl he's describing. I don't Habib. Must be fanfic. Ever consider that he posted the picture because of that? The picture was found on the internet when I was looking for something not real but similar. I'm not a Guro fan, so it wasn't much fun finding it.
You might consider a different OP pic next time. The naked amputee lolly was appropriate and good for attracting attention to your first post, but it does have a tendency to color everything you say. Perhaps find a less erotic one for your next thread, and post another thread with the lolly and a link to the actual one.
OP, keep starting the thread with that amputee lolly. If some kids get their panties in a twist over that and the very first post that you made, I say fuck 'em. Besides, that pic is cute. I chose the OP picture because it was eye-catching and, well, pretty close to her situation. Disturbingly enough, she doesn't have such extensive scarring on her leg stumps, and her right arm's in a much longer transtibial amputation, rather than a disarticulation. I'm not sure if I should change it, since it's a reasonably good way to suggest that it's a genuine thread about her, though I guess that is easily enough faked. I'll think about it. I hadn't thought it was a very indicative of rape, what with the lack of cocks, or mysterious white fluids, or any sort of come-hither look or position on the picture's character's part. I'd considered the naughty bits, but this is B, and like I said above, it's eye-catching. OP, how about starting to post threads with a pic that is less indicative of all? The disfigured lolly is somewhat unsettling and distracting from your message. On an unrelated note, people kept spamming the picture that inspired Katawa Shoujo.
This thread reminds me of this. Who would you choose, me?
Wow. I'm not sure exactly what to say, but I suppose I can at least give you a fair description of her. She's 7 years old, Scandinavian father, Japanese mother. I'm not a geneticist, so I don't know the details, but she wound up with the blonde hair, somewhere between ash and honey, I'd say, and green eyes. She also wound up with a skin tone somewhere between his, I'm guessing, pale fjordish, and her, also guessing, pale Japanese. Her features are predominantly still Japanese in configuration, with minor Caucasian fjordish bits here and there. She tends towards the extremely cute variety of Japanese-ish girl features, however, petite and idol-worthy. She's beautiful, by any standard. She was a physically active girl before the accident, involved in both general athletics and gymnastics. It seems probably the main reason she's doing so well in her rehab. She's rather petite, average little Japanese girl-sized, but not tiny. No particularly special innate physical characteristics from the neck down. Her right arm was amputated transtibially through the upper arm, about 4 inches below the shoulder. Both her legs are transfemur amputations through the thigh, roughly halfway down. She doesn't have Biko-style hypertrophic scarring at any of those locations, though the injuries only occurred roughly 3 months ago, so they're still quite new and still healing completely. She's learning to walk again with a pair of prosthetic legs. These include artificial knees, hydraulic models I think, and she uses silicone sheaths that then hold the sockets in place via suction. Her prosthetic right arm is a mixture of cosmetic and functional, with a myoelectric hand and body-powered elbow. It's also held in place via suction between the socket and the stump. Her right eye was lost and has since been fitted with a prosthetic orb and a cosmetic glass eye that looks quite a bit like her real one, though you can tell up close. There was some scarring over her eyelids and above and below the socket, since the eye was lost via a chunk of shrapnel in the accident, and it tore up the surroundings somewhat too. Not as large as the first picture in the thread, but noticeable. She wears relatively simple sets of clothing, gowns, housecoats, etc. Shit, almost forgot. Her hair is somewhat short all around. The original picture in this thread is actually not that far off. She hasn't been wearing it up in ribbons or barrettes or such much, since she doesn't like people helping her with it, and she can only do so much by herself. Not entirely sure what I think about all this, but if people feel the need, who am I to object to? Frankly, all my information about her parents is secondhand gossip from the hospital, and a bit from her records. It hardly included a family tree or even pictures of what her parents actually looked like. OP here. I honestly have no problem with a clothed version. If I had the photoshopping skills, I would have done it myself. Anonymous isn't my personal army, though. If someone feels like doing so, it's good. If not, I can manage some black censor bars or something. To the edit below, well, that would be the final distinguishing touch, all right. The hair is actually pretty damn close. Good work there. Pro tip. The tibia is a bone in the lower leg. The right word for an amputation through the upper arm is transhumeral. I doubt the OP is a genuine registered nurse. He'd know at least that much. Fuck. This is why you don't drink in post, as lame and undoubtedly made up as that sounds. Guess it's a good idea that I didn't go for med school after all. Anyway, need to head into the office in time for the nurses' lunchtime gathering to bounce my idea off them before I take it to the administration office.